Now you might say, well, what's the chances of that? Well, obviously the chances are low if atheism is correct, because that means that only a certain narrow razor edge existence is needed for life to evolve and begin. Well, I believe that with this creative property out there in the universe, there must be life out there in even the most unhospitable regions for life, like there is on Earth. Now, of course, there's some circumstantial evidence that this is possible, that life will arise and thrive and survive in any environment. You can see that on Earth. There are extremely destructive areas of the Earth near volcanic vents and oceanic vents, and where life is doing just fine. Now, of course, that is not enough evidence, simply because obviously that life probably did not arise in that area. It immigrated to that area, and it would be kind of like saying that there must be life on Mars because we moved to Mars. You know, let's say we colonized Mars. That doesn't mean anything. We are smart enough and we have the intelligence and the technology to live there. We need to find primitive life that can arise in areas that would be impossible for our type of life to evolve from. That would be another feather in the cap of deism, I believe, because this would mean that all matter in the universe has a longing for life, essentially. That the universe itself is alive, so to speak. That it wants to be living. Some might ask, what is God? How would God think, act, things of that nature? Well, deism does not believe in a being, so to speak. It isn't some guy in a cloud hanging out throwing thunderbolts. It's a existence. There's no way to really explain it because it's beyond what we understand currently. You know, it's beyond our normal natural experience. However, God is integral in our existence. The forces that command our atoms, our molecules, and chemical reactions in our body are governed by God. It is God, the ruling power of existence. And that ruling power has a tendency towards creating life, even in the most hospitable areas in the universe. Another thing that would need to be found or discovered to prove this type of deism correct would be if we were able to discover another universe which is sustained also, similar to ours. Doesn't have to have the exact same laws of physics, but must also have that propensity for life. The current view is that the reason this universe is the way it is because essentially the universe creating machine, of course I'm exaggerating, I'm being a little comical here, created universe after universe after universe. Some failed, some exploded, some failed to do anything, and then boom, here's our universe. It just every universe that was created made one with slightly different laws of physics until finally we came up with this one. Now, if we can find other universes out there that are extremely similar to our universe, or in fact the same, where we can see that there's a transcendent law that governs all these universes, then it would be more evidence for this God. Another alternative is that we could somehow prove that there are no other universes, which I don't know if we could ever do that, if there weren't any. How do we know that there weren't any? Because then it's obvious that this is it, and this is that transcendent law is here. Now there's some other bullet points, so to speak, that would prove or supply evidence that deism, or at least my form of deism, is correct. And I'll go into them on another show. We have about 2 minutes or so, or 3 minutes left. I would like to talk about atheism, because some people ask me why don't I usually attack, or not attack, but criticize theists, Christians, Muslims, and such. Well, why not atheists? Well, in my experience, attacking atheism is kind of like attacking theism. I can't criticize theism. I can criticize Christian views, Muslim views, Hindu views, and the such. But I can't criticize theism, because there is no theism. Theism is a category. Well, atheism is the same way. Atheism is a category. Then you have to break up the reasons for not believing. There are people like Richard Dawkins, which I believe is probably the closest to a deist you could probably ever meet. Obviously, he would never say that, but he looks at things based on logic and observes nature. That's one type of atheist. I have no problem with them, because using their logic, there's really not much to criticize. They simply call the universe by another name, so to speak. Now, then there's a second type of atheist, which is more of an agnostic type, where they just never really looked at it either way. They're just like, whatever. It's either exists, doesn't exist, who knows, whatever. And they put no thought into it. Again, other than the fact that no logic is being used, there's really not much to criticize. Then there's the third type of atheist, which is what I call the active atheist. And I knew in high school, and actually still know, some active atheists, and I have a huge problem with them. They are atheists who acknowledge, okay, there is no God. Then they take it to the next step. That means there's no rules, or all the rules in society are there to constrain us. These are mostly people who are more anarchist in nature, and they take the fact that there is no God as an excuse to do immoral things. Now, of course, by what I mean by immoral, which I'll define later for deism, immorality in deism is anything that acts against humanity, that acts against the progress of humanity. And you'll have criminals and the such that essentially justify everything they do because there is no transcending law. Now, my time is about to run out, so thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on my next show.